Welcome, it's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are joined by Don Knabe. He is a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. And sir, a few years back, there was a case out of Palmdale, which was absolutely crushing and devastating. The boy, Gabriel Fernandez, was killed by a family member, and it was clear, one could argue, that social services didn't see their finest hour with the Gabriel Fernandez case. Talk to us about that case and what were the ramifications of it?
Well, first of all, Brad, Happy New Year. Nice to meet you again.
Thank you very much.
But I that case was so horrific. I mean, it's one where, one of the poor children just literally dropped through the cracks at some point, whether it's a social worker, whether it's a supervisor. More importantly, the lack of oversight on the responsibility. Our desire to put kids back with their families, I think we've gone overboard. And so that little safety venture there, instead of say, well, they should be taken out of the home. And that decision was not made in the right way. So out of that...
But let me ask you about this desire for reunification, because I personally know folks who have been fostering children, and the policy to reunify is so strong that in the face of clear evidence, a reunification will occur only for that child to be ripped yet again from the birth family and put back with the foster family.
But I mean, when you talk about reunification, it's usually for the family back to the family or a family member versus another party. But the effort to be that reunification with the existing family, we've put so much emphasis there that we've gone overboard, and that includes the judicial system. I mean, that's not the... I mean, these poor social workers are making life and death decisions without the help of a sheriff, without the help of mental health, without the help of a public health person. So those are the kinds of things we're trying to work through. So out of that, with all the horrific media coverage and everything else, in our wisdom, we created a Blue Ribbon Commission.
Right.
And I opposed the Blue Ribbon Commission
because
18 months prior to that, and before the ink was dry, we created a strategic plan, to try to fix the department, to bring things under control, to deal with the Gabriels of the world so that wouldn't happen again. I mean, it's almost impossible not to have it, but the goal is zero. The point being is the Blue Ribbon Commission spent another 8 months coming up with about half of the recommendations they came up with were already in our strategic plan. So we've lost all that time. And out of that came the czar kind of a situation, which I really oppose, because where we should be putting the money is at the point of contact. These social workers need a stand-up team, and what we've done here recently is to expanded our medical hubs so that we have some drop-off, some medical information to deal with the child at the point of contact. We'll also be putting public health nurses with social workers so that you have a health analysis as well, too, to help them in these kinds of decisions.
But let me ask you about the social worker per se. This is a county of 10 million people. It's over 4,000 square miles. How many social workers do we have? The numbers are pretty low. And so I'm wondering if really that's the issue, is that they're just not enough staff.
There's not. And again, as you deal with the issue of change, that can't happen overnight. You can't create or hire a social worker in 24 hours. I mean, not only do they have to have their bachelor's degree, they have to have their master's degrees, they have to have the training. So it's a long process. The board has been very supportive, and we've authorized the hiring of 400 additional social workers. About 150, I believe, have been hired already. And so we're trying to deal with that. That is an issue, but there's also an accountability issue. It's probably one of the toughest jobs in the world. I mean, I've walked with them. I've gone out with them. And not only do the decisions that they have to make, excuse me, in some very difficult family situations, horrific, I mean, dirty, filthy places. And so this social worker has to make that decision, and that social worker needs help.
So where do we go from here? It's undeniable that the situation is reaching a breaking point. We hear a lot of cases, a lot of them out of Florida, it seems, where there's a lot of tragedies occurring. But here in California, that's our priority first. We're in Los Angeles County today. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is we're working through all the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Commission. We have a transition team in place, trying to work through those. I don't necessarily agree with that form. I want to put the money again at the point of contact versus another bureaucracy. The Office of Child Protection, to create a czar kind of a thing. Those things, to me, are just going to, we have 5 children's services commissions of some sort. We have all these different people pushing and pulling. And then I think the child gets lost in all of that. And so we're sort of managing by the media. And I think we need to sort of take a deep breath, step back, and say, let the folks, the professionals, do their job, which I think we're doing now. We're doing that better. I mean, this thing with the medical hubs, the public health nurses, we've done all that without a czar or an Office of Child Protection. But I mean, the votes are there to move towards that, fine. I'm going to be vigilant to make sure that we don't spend all our money hiring secretaries and administrative assistants and budget analysts, and to make sure that the money's being spent out in the field with the social workers, with the public health nurses, with our media, our medical hubs, those kinds of situations that really help protect the children.
You talk about the votes being there. For those of us that don't live in Los Angeles County, this is a new board. There are 2 new members. Hilda Solis, former Secretary of Labor for the United States, Sheila Kuehl, former member of the state legislature. They are new members. They have replaced folks like Xavier Oslovsky and Gloria Molina. And so I want to get a sense from you, 2 out of 5, that's a big change.
It's a big change, I mean, as it relates to them, but their votes haven't changed on the Office of Child Protection or on the Blue Ribbon Commission or transition team.
But what about the board as a body? I mean, Xavier Oslovsky and Gloria Molina are very different than Sheila Kuehl and Hilda Solis. I mean, for those of us in Los Angeles County, we know that well. Xavier Oslovsky grew up in kind of fighting for Soviet Jews and wound up on the LA City Council and then wound up as a supervisor. Gloria Molina fighting for Latino rights as well. I mean, kind of that era. Whereas with Hilda Solis and Sheila Kuehl, different experiences. Hilda went through the state legislature and the Congress and then a cabinet position. Sheila Kuehl also came out of Sacramento. So different experiences, different approaches.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, they're very, very thoughtful. They're both very smart. Consensus builders, I think. I mean, they all have their own agendas like we all do, and which way they might move, whether it's pro-labor or anti-labor.
Right.
I don't think anyone's anti-labor, but I mean, but the point being is that they're very thoughtful decision makers thus far. And again, it's been a very short period of time we've had that opportunity, but they've been really easy to work with. I mean, it's I have to remember, and Mike has to remember, even Mark has to remember some of our issues that we've been dealing with for 2 or 3 years.
And they have not.
And they've been there for 7, 8 weeks.
At the same time, what I always found fascinating about city councils and boards of supervisors is you're forced to work under what's known as the Brown Act, which means you really cannot have conversations about policy matters with a majority of the board.
Right.
Translation, you can talk to one other person.
Right.
And so I want to get a sense from you, how do you coalition build, especially with 2 new members?
Well, first of all, I personally offer my services to either one of the members as to any questions about history or how the county operates or how they might move around, those kinds of things, working with their staffs on multiple issues to make sure that they understand that we partner on, like Hilda and I, with trauma care in the San Gabriel Valley, transportation issues on the east side of town. Those kinds of issues we work closely together, whether it's on the MTA or other issues. With Sheila, obviously there's some West Side issues, but she's big into the child care issues.
Right.
She's big into the health care issues. And so we have a mutual respect for each other. I mean, I take the time to get to know them and express my willingness to work with them. I mean, it doesn't mean we're always going to agree.
Right.
But I will tell you, in situations like that, particularly during difficult debates, the ability to pick up a phone and be able to call one of your colleagues is very important.
But can you? I mean, this Brown Act, I've been speaking about this for a while. It just seems as if it's a trap.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have the Brown Act, but that's a public meeting. If you have, a closed session, you're protected. Public meetings, you're out there. But it doesn't prevent one-on-one conversations.
But if you talk to Sheila about something, can you then talk to Mike about something? That's the challenge.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I'm not writing an email and copying 4 people, as an example, but I certainly can visit with them.
Okay, his name is Don Knabe. He is a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, a county of 10 million people. If it were a state, it'd be larger than the state of Michigan. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is California Edition.